Takeover.com, my YouTube page, Football Takeover, JH Football Takeover. And as I promised, going live at 7, I'm John Harris. You can follow me on Twitter at JHarrisFootball. I guess I should make a little logo or whatever for that. So one of these days we'll figure all that out. I'm literally just learning everything. So hopefully that goes well. You can get in the chat and ask questions, and I'll try and take some questions at the end. Our table of contents for tonight is going to be number one, top 10 quarterbacks. I've finalized all of my positions finally. And look, I know that sounds like not that big a deal, but it really is to kind of have things settled in my database. I wish I could show you. I think I could share my screen. Let me see if I can share my screen and learn how to do this. It's one of these little buttons. No, I don't want to leave this thing. But share screen. Let me see if I can do this real fast. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that. I'll figure it out for next time and show you my screen. I show you my database, where I keep everything and where I've got it and how I slot and how I move things around and all that kind of stuff. So at that point, hi Max, how you doing? I'm glad you got back in. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to kick you out a little bit earlier. I just got started too early and then I'd go back to it. So anyways, appreciate that you're here. But I finally got my rankings all set, ready to go, right where I wanted them. I think, of course, once you say you said it and you forget it, like Ron Popeil, you wonder whether, oh my gosh, did I forget someone? Either way, I felt pretty solid about where I've got my top 10 quarterbacks and beyond. I've got 13 draftable quarterbacks. And so I figured, you know what, let's go through our top 10. Do the top 10 tonight, talk about what those guys are. And I figured for a couple of bonuses, let's do top 10 quarterbacks for 2024. Let's do a top 10 for 2024. Like, what the hell? Why not? I mean, I'm one of the few people that can do it because I'm already kind of ahead. And like I said, I wish I could show you my screen because I'm actually working on my Harris 100 for the 2024 draft already. And so I've got my top 10. It's not set in stone because this draft coming up 2024, I felt like as I looked at those names, I thought back to the way I felt in 2023. I feel like I am rock solid with 15 to 20 names for the top 10, 15 to 20 players. And I could see a couple of these guys moving into the top 10. So it's going to be a really intriguing year. So I figured, why not? Let's just go with the top 10 for 2024 as well. So 2023 quarterbacks, 2024 quarterbacks, and then 2024 top 10. Figure that wouldn't be a bad way to spend a Friday. So let's rock through this and start with our top 10 for 2023 at quarterback. And it starts with TCU's Max Duggan. I went back and forth on Max. During the season, most people know he had been a starter for 2-3 years prior to. As the 2023 season began, Sonny Dykes had named Chandler Morris the starter. And naming Chandler Morris the starter, apparently it was not even close. Like, Morris was the guy. And that's happened. It happened to me as a senior at Brown. We got a new coaching staff, and I wasn't a starter or anything, but I played a decent amount of my junior year. We got a new defensive coordinator my senior year, and I didn't even see the field. I mean, it didn't even get close. And it wasn't until the end of the year where I kind of won him over a little bit. I just kind of stuck to it. And by the end of the year, I got a little bit of playing time, but it was frustrating. So I understand where Max was coming from. But Max was outstanding throughout 2022. His running ability has always been there. He ran in the 4.5 range. So he's got the speed. He's got the ball carrying ability. At the Senior Bowl, the inconsistency throwing, I think, is really what kind of threw me off a little bit. There's some things that I saw throwing wise, like he's got to speed some things up. He's got to slow some things down. It's like the speed and tempo were off for him. But I think when you talk about just getting it done, like, we'll figure it out. That's my favorite phrase to use to my wife. And if she's watching, she knows, like, we'll figure it out. And I think Max Duggan is that way. We'll figure it out. In a Big 12 championship game, TCU can't get anything done, and he puts them on their back. And that last drive in the Big 12 championship game, I mean, he's spent. He is spent, and he's still making plays. I think Max Duggan ends up being a quality backup for a long time in the league, and maybe he gets a shot. Maybe he's like Case Keenum in that way, where he gets a shot, and hopefully he'll get the opportunity to win people over. But Max Duggan is going to come in at number 10. All right, at number 9, this guy from Purdue, Aiden O'Connell. And you watch him, he wears number 16. He's been around. He's not really athletic. He doesn't move around really well. And he just reminds me of Jared Goff. The ball gets where it needs to be. He doesn't have a strong arm. In fact, that's probably why he's down a little bit. It's not the greatest arm. But, man, you talk about the ball getting to where it's supposed to be. Aiden O'Connell puts the ball where it's supposed to be. The Syracuse game, I watched that game live while it was going on. Then I watched it on tape twice. And I watched it for the Syracuse guys first. Then I watched it for the Purdue guys later. And O'Connell makes a throw to his tight end, like in that game where Syracuse is in man coverage and the safety is draped all over Payne Durham, the tight end. And I'm telling you, O'Connell could put that ball in about a space this big, and he just dots him. And they're like, man, there aren't many guys that can do that. Aiden O'Connell has got some great passing acumen, but that's it. In the pocket, it's tough because if you get pressure on him, he's not going to give you much beyond that. So Aiden O'Connell, I think, can be a great backup to have around because he can deliver the football. I'll be interested to see where he ends up and what he does in preseason games in 2023 to push for, getting on a roster at that point. All right, number 8 might be a little bit of a surprise. That's Jaren Hall. Now, when I went back and I did my Harris 100 in the spring, I had Jaren Hall from BYU. I had him about 75, 80. I loved his dual threat ability. I loved his calm makeup, poise. I thought he could make every throw on a field. I don't think his arm's the strongest, but he's got the ability to move out of the pocket. Really good placement, ball placement, accuracy. And so early in the year, they play Oregon, and they get smoked. I mean, smoked. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, this is the undoing of Jaren Hall. And then you look and you watch the game and you go, wait a second. Hall is excellent in this game. He was fantastic. He just got overshadowed by Bo Nix that day because Bo was incredible bouncing back from a loss to Georgia. But Jaren Hall has a lot of the things you're looking for. He can move out of the pocket. He can make plays out of the pocket throwing. He can make plays out of the pocket running. I thought, might have been a more complete quarterback than Zach Wilson even. But Zach had that whip for an arm, and, it was strong. But at the Senior Bowl, Jaren Hall just, man, I struggled. I really struggled watching Jaren Hall at the Senior Bowl. But I do think there's something there. And I think if you get him in the right system, he's 6 foot, he's 207. He's not the biggest guy. He's a baseball player. He's got a lot of skill. He runs 4.6 into 40. He can make things happen and be exciting. Jaren Hall might end up being a sneaky hot day 3 guy that teams look at and say, you know what, we can do something with this guy. So number 8, Jaren Hall from BYU. Number 7, let's go out to LA. UCLA, Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Now, when it comes to tools, there are very few that have tools like DTR, as he is referred to. Arm strength, speed, athleticism, off the charts. When he was at Bishop Gorman in high school, he didn't play quarterback until his final year. He was a wide receiver for Tate Martell. Tate was a 5-star guy going to Ohio State. He was all out of a bag of chips. DTR only got 1 year to be a starter at Gorman, but he had already gotten a scholarship to go to UCLA. And he stayed throughout his career, 5-year career at UCLA. He's arrogant. He's cocky. He just kind of has no chill. He just goes. He's an athlete. He gets competitive. Probably talks a little too much. But I think he's got skill to get out of the pocket and make some plays and run game. Like you think about Jalen Hurts, DTR is kind of the Jalen Hurts of this group, if you will. I think he's got running ability for days. I think his passing acumen, he can make every throw because of his arm strength. But he'll get a little hopped up sometimes. Ball start to stale on him. I think it's probably why he's at 7. But I think in that 4th, 5th round, team looking for somebody with a little extra something, a team that puts a focus on maybe quarterback runs, mobility. I think Dorian Thompson-Robinson could be a sneaky hot guy at number 7. All right, let's get number 6. This is one of my favorites. Jake Haener, Fresno State. Now, I always do my Harris 100. In fact, that's why I'm doing 2024 tonight. My Harris 100 for 2022, last year's draft. When I was studying and looking for quarterbacks to put in my Harris 100, I got to have a place to start. So I just went around to each conference and I looked up, okay, who was the leading passer in the conference and who was the leading passer in the country, all that kind of stuff. So I'm just ripping through the quarterbacks and I see Haener, sophomore. So I go to see his bio. He'd been in Washington. He went to Fresno State. Numbers are really good in 2021. I'm like, I need to check this guy out. 2020, excuse me. I need to check this guy out. So I watched a couple of games. I'm like, whoa, he's got a whip for an arm. He's like 6 foot, if that, 200 pounds, smart, tough. I was like, I like this guy. So I put him in my Harris 100. He decides to go back to Fresno State for 2022. after a great 2021. He had a game against UCLA and DTR where he carried Fresno State. His arm was literally hanging by his side at the end of the game, and he dots Jalen Moreno Cropper, good slot receivers in this draft class, probably day 3 guy, for a touchdown to beat UCLA at UCLA. It was like 12 midnight, 1 a.m. on the East Coast probably, and he's dealing. And I think that's part of it. This year, he gets hurt again in the USC game. They lose the next 2 games with him out. When he comes back, they didn't lose again. There's something with Jake Haener. Smart, tough. At the Senior Bowl, I watched so many Senior Bowl practices where quarterbacks can't do diddly squat. I don't like to cuss. I take it back. I love to cuss, but I won't do it on these. But there's a lot of things I could say to really enforce this. So diddly squat is not the strongest thing, but you get the point. The offense moved with Jake Haener. I have seen so many really good quarterbacks. Baker Mayfield, Josh Allen, Kenny Pickett last year. First-round guys. Carson Wentz in 16. Offense couldn't do anything first day. Dropping snaps. It just looked ugly. Jake Haener got in there. Zip, zip, zip. Now, he wasn't perfect. He made a couple bad decisions. But the offense moved with Jake Haener, and that meant something. I think Jake Haener is going to be a surprise. There's some people really split on him. Some people think he's a day 3 guy. I think he's maybe early day 3, maybe late day 2. And, of course, the comparison, and he talked about it at 49ers Pro Day the other day, is to Brock Purdy. Everybody thinks Brock Purdy. I think Haener's got a better arm than Brock Purdy, but I think Purdy a little bit sturdier. I mean, obviously got hurt, but I kind of don't put that on him. When you block a defensive end like Hassan Reddick with a tight end, kind of deserve that, I guess. But either way, I don't think Haener is Brock Purdy because I think he's a little bit more accomplished throwing the ball. But Haener's going to get in camp and make things interesting. Keep an eye on Jake Haener, number 6. All right, number 5, and maybe the biggest upset to date, and that is Will Levis of Kentucky. I've heard this throughout this week. I've heard this throughout the draft process. Will Levis in 2021 was so much better in 22. He's so much better. I don't know that I buy that. Last summer, I watched 4 games, beginning to end, every snap of Will Levis. And there were times of, ooh, yes. And then, hey, what's he doing? Even in 2021. Now, in 21, and this, I think this is key to Levis's analysis. Levis was with Liam Cohen, offensive coordinator at Kentucky. He had come from the Rams. So he's with Levis for a year. Then he goes back to LA to be the offensive coordinator when Kevin O'Connell went to be the Vikings head coach. No Liam Cohen. Rich Gangarella comes in. Little different system. Didn't go well for Levis. Some would say he thrived in 2021. I don't know. I'd say thrived. I don't think there's any question. Dude's built like a tank. He's got one of maybe the strongest arm. I mean, he and Anthony Richardson could have a throwing contest. It would be lights out pay-per-view. It would be awesome. But ball sales on him. Mechanics are off. Feet, hips, shoulders, not always going in the same direction. Now, is he tough? Yes. Is he a leader? Yes. He is. I don't think he's arrogant. I think he's confident. But some of that, I think, kind of masks some of the insecurities about how he's playing. And I always go back to this, too, sometimes. Penn State had Sean Clifford. And Sean Clifford's in his draft class. I don't think he's going to get drafted. But Penn State chose Sean Clifford over Will Levis. And I know that Penn State can be about seniority and all that kind of stuff. But if Will Levis is great, he should have been the quarterback. But he goes to Kentucky. He got an opportunity. And I know this year there's been a lot of talk about these 2 things. One is offensive line. Everybody's gone. 2 is receivers. Look, he had 2 freshman receivers, and I know they're freshmen. Those dudes are going to be drafted. Dane Key and Barry Brown were as dynamic down the field as any group. So I really don't want to hear that Levis didn't have any talent around him. Now, there were some drops, and there were some things that happened because he had freshman receivers. But those dudes are athletes, and he threw the ball down the field. Georgia and the Georgia and Mississippi State games, I charted every play, and it was like this the whole way through. Man, he's throwing 3 or 4 straight balls. All of a sudden, it's 4th and 1, and they're going for it. They're going to throw a little tunnel screen, a little quick tunnel, and he throws it right to Emmanuel Forbes, touchdown. So it's just those things that get so frustrating with Levis. And so I just have a hard time with this and then this and then this and then this. Now, will I take the toughness? Yes. Will I take the leadership? Absolutely. Will I take the ability to take the ball and go get 2 yards on 3rd and 2 when I need it? Yes. Yes, yes. But will I take the inconsistency? No. even on throws like against Missouri in 2021, he's had a good game up to the point where he's got a wide open receiver across the middle and he throws it 5 yards over his head. It's like an arm punt right into the arms of the safety. Like they got all the momentum in the world and it's just so that's kind of why I have the toughest time with Will Levis. So he comes in at number 5. All right, let's get to number 4. There's also been talk about this guy a lot, especially this week, and that's Hendon Hooker. Hendon Hooker from Tennessee. When I studied him in the spring of 2022, I wasn't totally sure what I was going to see. I had seen him play, but not a lot in 2021. Just the games and the travel that we all have during the season. So I had watched him play. So I knew he had some good games. But I really wanted to study him because when he was at Virginia Tech, he was jacked. He was just a guy. And I almost didn't even study him. But I was like, you know what? His numbers were pretty darn good in 21. Let's go take a look at this guy. So I studied like 2 or 3 games, and I'm about halfway through game 1. I'm like, whoa. First of all, he's got some receivers to throw to. But secondly, boy, he's in command. He is dotting throws. And I know there's been a lot made about his offense. And I thought Seth Payne on Sports Radio 610 in Houston, my hometown, made a great point. He said, look, you can't really run that offense, or that offense isn't as explosive in the NFL because the hashes. You know, you've got so much room because the hashes are so wide in college. You don't have that in the NFL. That said, when I was studying Hendon Hooker, I didn't focus on, okay, that's a college throw versus. Is that a throw he can make at the NFL level? Is that a throw he's going to be asked to make at the NFL level? These throws that he's making, can he layer these throws? How tough is he? What kind of leader is he? I think he's everything you want. He's a future coach. He said he wanted to be a coach, and you can see that on the field. I think he counsels his offense extremely well. But the throws that he makes outside the numbers, he threw a dime to Jalen Hyatt. I mean, against Pitt, a dime. This throw is as good a throw. They're on the left hash to the far right corner of the end zone. And Hyatt's running slot fade, so that's smash. So on the outside guy's running hitch, 5-yard hitch. And the inside guy's Hyatt. He's basically just running what's called slot fade. So he's just running to the far corner of the end zone. And he's 4.4 speed. Hooker lays it out there. And this thing has got to be dropped in a bucket, and he does it. Hyatt, I thought, got a foot in bounds. They said he didn't, but either way, the throw is beautiful. The very next play, he gets Kalijah Kancey beating the center. Like, he took the center and threw him in to Hooker. Hooker stayed in the pocket, and he's got a tight end going down the seam, and he drops it over the linebacker, over the safety. Tight end catches it, gets down on 1-yard line. They score the next play. That's when I felt like, boy, Hooker is he's at a different level. And so just watching him the rest of the season, now the ACL complicates things. People are going to say the offense does. I don't get caught up in that. But the age, he's 25. And when is he going to be ready? Those are going to be things that he's up against. And so that's probably going to push him down lower in the first round. And I said this to Mark the other day, Mark Vandermeer, voice of the Texans. We talk a lot about this stuff. He's a big fan of Hendon Hooker. And what we talked about was, when's he going to be ready? If he didn't have the ACL, if he was 22 years old, where would he go? And I was like, I think he goes top 5. I think he would have gone top 5 because he's got every other attribute, intangible, physical aspect that you want in a quarterback. That'd be Hendon Hooker. So I put him at 4, and I think he's going to end up going I think he's going to go to top 20. I think Levis will get taken ahead of him because I think Levis has got some of those, like I said, Liam Cohen coaching at Kentucky. There's some NFL things there. He had to learn NFL offense. I think that's going to put Levis ahead. But to me, Hooker, I think, is the better quarterback. Now, speaking of quarterbacks that are athletic, we get to number 3, Anthony Richardson. There's been a lot of talk about Richardson. If you go to footballtakeover.com, you see my breakdown, or actually my YouTube page. You can see the video I did for Anthony Richardson. I got a write-up on him at footballtakeover.com, so go check that out. Richardson just confounds everybody because you watch it. And I actually said this after watching him in the short amount of time that he played in 2021. You could see, like you'd see him just rip it. And it's when you see a quarterback, and I go back to seeing Josh Allen at the Senior Bowl. Quick story about Josh. First day at the Senior Bowl, Josh Allen, they have this net, and it's got 3 squares. And they're 10 yards away, and he's throwing Baker Mayfield, and Baker's just like, da, da, da. Quarterback from Nebraska, his name is Lee, I think. And they're just dotting those 3 squares, just dotting them. And Josh is sailing it over the thing. I mean, all over the place. as the weeks go on, he start doing the same thing. And then they went to red zone drills, and I saw Josh Allen make a throw from like the 25-yard line going into the end zone, about 5 yards deep in the end zone. So this ball was about 30 yards on a rope, and I'm like, I've never seen anything like that in my life. Never. I've never seen anybody throw a ball like that. That's Anthony Richardson. And obviously the comparison is to Josh Allen. To me, it's about that arm strength. But Anthony does have touch. He does throw the ball outside outside the numbers very well. I think he's got great touch. You go check out my video. You see a little bit more about Anthony Richardson. But I put Richardson at 3, and we know he's hot or cold. Now, here's the other thing people have said a lot is, well, you got to wait for him. You got to wait for him. You got to wait for him. There's part of me that thinks, you know what? Screw that. Play him. Play him right now. If you have a good system, if you have good pieces around him, if you have a good locker room, you'll find a way to make things better for him going forward. That sounds crazy. Just play him. You're going to draft him at 4? Well, Colts might. Maybe somebody drafts him at 3. Heck, maybe the Texans draft him at 2. I don't know. But Anthony Richardson is sure as hell going to make things exciting wherever he goes. And I think he's different than Malik Willis because to me, Willis, because that's the name that gets brought up a lot. Willis was more, I'm going to throw this ball about 1,000 miles an hour and you have to make the catch. Richardson knows when to throw the laser, when to throw some touch. He's got that down. But mechanically, he's got to work on it because the feet are all over the place, which drives the hips, the shoulders, and balls sailing him that shouldn't sail on him. So that really is what Anthony's got to work on. If he shows the work ethic that Josh Allen has, my goodness, there's no telling where Anthony Richardson can go. So we get to the top 2. I don't know if this is any real surprise, to be honest. But CJ Stroud is at 2 and Bryce Young is at number 1. That has not changed since this summer. I think that's been when I did my Harris 100. I had Bryce, the top quarterback. I had CJ, the second quarterback. I want to say I had Richardson 3, but I can't remember. I may have had Levis 3 and Richardson 4. Either way, I had Hooker, I know, down at 78 early because I wasn't totally sure what to do with him. I wanted to see him one more year. Well, this year was pretty damn good. But Stroud's going to go 2. Young's going to go 1. I mean, if you don't know by now, Young's only 5'10" and an 8. I don't know if you knew this, but he's not the tallest guy. But he's got everything you'd want in a quarterback other than that. Now, I think his arm is good, not great. It's sufficient. There are going to be some throws maybe that will give him some issue, especially at his size, being able to make that throw that he's got to just drive one, the 20-yard deep out on the sidelines. Maybe that I think he could do it, but if he starts to get harassed a little bit, I don't know that he can. CJ can. I know he can do that, but Bryce Young's at 1. I just love the guy. I love everything about him. I wish, well, I don't know. There's a part of me that wishes he was CJ's size because I think he would be clearly the number 1 at that point. Then again, the Texans being at 2, I would like him in Houston. So there's that. So down below, I will put the ticker of the top 10 quarterbacks as I have it. And to review, Max Duggan, Aiden O'Connell, Jaron Hall, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, Jake Haener at 5, Will Levis at 4. Who did I have at 4? Hendon Hooker at 3, Anthony Richardson, 2, CJ Stroud, and excuse me, at number 1, Bryce Young. Okay, now I'm going to do this because I don't know, for the hell of it, we're on YouTube, right? Because I do think that quarterback is one of those positions that you try and look forward to think, you know what? Do I trade up and give up next year's pick, next year's first in particular, because there could be some dudes coming that I might want to save that pick for, especially at quarterback. Now, you don't know who's going to declare. Of my top 10, third-year guy, third year, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 are third-year guys. So they could go back. In fact, I think 5 or 6 of the top 10 could go back. So they have that option. So having that option, you don't know whether they're going to come out or not. You'd like to think Caleb Williams is coming out, but you don't know that. So point being, you kind of play the odds a little bit, but if you want to have some, healthy discussion in the draft room, think ahead a year at quarterback in particular. Other positions, I don't know. But quarterback in particular, I think you can have those discussions about next year with quarterbacks. And so that's why I decided to go through this exercise of what's in the class for next year. So kind of rip through these at number 10. Number 10 is a guy from right here in Houston, not Houston, just outside of Houston, place I used to go play. They were in my district, from West Columbia, Texas. He started at Incarnate Word. He's now at Washington State, and that's Cam Ward. Cameron Ward went up to Washington State. He runs that air raid offense. Now, his offensive coordinator left, so we'll see how that goes for him, but I think it was a good move to go out to Washington State. Quick delivery, gets the ball wherever he wants. Now, early in the year, he's erratic, kind of getting used to the speed of the game, but he can get out of the pocket, he can run. Playoff game he had against Sam Houston 2 years ago, 21. 21? Yeah, 21. It was I've never seen anybody do that to a Sam Houston defense. Now, FCS level, I get it. It took a little while for him to get up to speed at the FBS level. But I think Cam Ward at 6'2", 230, he's got every asset you're looking for in a next level quarterback. Cam Ward, Washington State. Number 9. Now this one, hang on to your hat, because I've gone back and forth on this guy for years. But if, and this is a big if Spencer Rattler at South Carolina plays the 2023 season the way he played the last 3 games of the 2022 season, Spencer Rattler may not be 9th. He may be a lot higher than that. He makes every throw on a football field. Every single throw. He looks the part of an NFL quarterback. But he's had issues attitude-wise. He's pretty cocky. And his play is up and down. It's been up and down. That's why he left Oklahoma. He comes to South Carolina. It was just kind of up and down. And then they played Tennessee, and he went nuts. Then they played Clemson at Clemson. Beat Clemson. Made a couple big throws to Juice Wells. I don't ultimately know what Spencer Rattler's going to bring. I really don't. But when it comes to what a quarterback in the NFL is supposed to look like, what he's supposed to throw like, Spencer Rattler is that guy. But can he keep it together for a full 12 games and then take that on to the NFL? $64 million question. Spencer Rattler's at 9. Number 8, Bo Nix out of Oregon. Bo turned his career from undrafted free agent at Auburn, going to Oregon, where he could end up being an early day 2 guy, maybe back in the first round. I think Bo Nix resurrected his career in Oregon, had a great year in 2022. Can run, can throw on the run, tough. Played with a bad ankle in the Utah game and got a win against Utah and was fantastic. Bo Nix at Oregon comes in number 8. Number 7, a little bit of surprise, kind of. He hasn't even played a game against FBS competition. At Shedeur Sanders, Colorado. The change in level is going to be something just like Cam Ward dealt with. But you talk about throw the football. Shedeur Sanders can absolutely rocket shot the football. He is fun to watch. He can move out of the pocket. He can scramble to run. He can scramble to throw. He does a little bit of everything. But I have him at 7 with kind of a wait and see. We'll wait and see. Because he's got to go against Pac-12 competition. And look, I know Pac-12, I get it. Pac-12 is not what the Pac-12 used to be. We don't even know if the Pac-12 will exist in a couple of years. But I think Sanders, following his dad out to Colorado, he's got Travis Hunter as wide receiver on the outside. I think Sanders could be a guy to definitely watch in his draft class because of that natural ability to throw the football. It's really impressive watching him throw the ball. Number 6, Grayson McCall, Coastal Carolina. A couple years ago, it was thought he's going to transfer. Then after last year, it was like, oh, he's definitely transferring. Well, he still hasn't left. He's still at Coastal Carolina. And they run one of the most fun offenses you're going to run. There's a lot of option. There's a lot of quarterbacks having to make a decision. I mean, it's kind of a mix of old school wishbone, new school spread. And McCall has got as good a ball placement and touch as you're going to find. Not the greatest, strongest arm, but tough, well-schooled, well-disciplined, great eye discipline when he's back in the pocket, can run, scramble to run, like I said over Sanders. He can scramble to run. He runs the option a lot. He'll scramble to throw. But his ability, his pinpoint accuracy, I think is underrated for Grayson McCall. He's at number 6. Number 5, transfer from Wake Forest, going to Notre Dame, Sam Hartman. Now, Sam's in his 6th year. Sam's had some physical issues dating all the way back to high school. But at Wake Forest, he was running that kind of slow mesh offense. And I think Sam wanted to be in a more traditional, even if it's not that offense, because you're not seeing that slow mesh Wake Forest offense going forward or in the NFL, at least not yet anyway. But you are seeing some of the things that Notre Dame's going to do. And so he transferred to Notre Dame. He's got a few weapons there at Notre Dame he can use. So getting into a little bit more of a pro style or less Wake Forest offense is a better way of putting it. I love Sam. Now he's a little, I was say smaller. He's 6'1", 206, but this is a tough guy. He's been through a lot. And I think going to Notre Dame could be, I don't say boom or bust, but I think it could go well for Sam at Notre Dame. And he is definitely going to be into consideration as a top 5 quarterback and first rounder, top of the second, if he does what I think he can do at Notre Dame. At number 4, and I battled this one. I really battled this one. And I know there are going to be some friends of mine that don't like this. But number 4, I got J.J. McCarthy from Michigan. And there's some of my Spartan friends out there that are just going to throw up when they hear that. But he's got 4.4 speed. I watched every throw he had against TCU, every throw he made. And he was kind of all over the map in that game. TCU got pressure on him. Michigan's offensive line was not very good. But he threw dimes down the field. He threw a couple of left hash, right sideline throws on the money. And I just remember watching it going, man, I had in my mind he's just a runner. But I'm watching him make these throws, and I went back and I watched the Ohio State game, and he made dime throws in that one. I thought, he's legit. He's legit. Now, again, it could be a little bit boom or bust on him because when he scrambles, he's running. He's going to run. But when he gets time in the pocket, and Michigan's offensive line is giving him time, he's had some weapons to throw to. He made unbelievable throws in that TCU game. Unbelievable throws. He also made a few that he'd like to have back. He threw that pick to Bud Clark. That was not a great throw. It's not a great read. So I do think there's plenty more there for J.J. McCarthy. But I do think there is a high ceiling for him as well. So J.J. McCarthy at number 4. Number 3, the lefty. Would have loved to have seen him in this draft. Would have loved to. Michael Penix Jr. from out of Washington. What I've been sold on Penix for a while. My good friend Andre Ware has been telling me about Michael Penix for a while. Like he did like 2 or 3 games of Penix and just loved him. Loved the production meetings. Loved everything about him. And I was a big fan of his at Indiana. I didn't think he threw the ball that well, but he never finished the season. He'd always been hurt. So he goes to Washington. And I forgot he was even there. And I was watching the spring game to watch a couple of other players. I'm like, oh, that's Penix. Oh, okay. I'll keep an eye on him. And he was outstanding. He put up numbers all year. But it was the game against, dang it, who were they playing that night? Was Oregon? I think it was maybe Oregon. At Washington. And Oregon's running 2 deep. And he's on the right hash. And so wide receiver goes outside, gets in the cover 2 hole. Safety kind of moves to the middle a little bit. Doesn't think Penix can make that throw. And Penix throws a ball, I swear to you, about 40 yards on a rope. Safety can't get there. Receiver catches it. Touchdown. Washington ends up winning the game. And that was the backbreaker. I watched that throw 25 times. And I thought, there's not a quarterback, Levis or Richardson, I don't know that can make that throw. Penix can make that throw. Penix comes in number 3. Top 2, I don't think is any surprise. You know anything about this next class. Drake May, University of North Carolina, 6'4.5", 220. His brother played in a basketball team, very athletic family at North Carolina. Was a first-year starter last year. And the first game was against FAMU. I was like, all right, watch this because nothing else is on because it's one of those early games. FAMU's got a bunch of guys suspended. And I'm like, whoa, Tank and Deal. This dude, holy smokes. App State game. He is just throwing dimes all over the field. He can make every throw. He can make them under duress. He can run. He is what this league is all about. Drake May comes in number 2. Number 1, Caleb Williams, Heisman. And really, Heisman doesn't come into play for a pro evaluation, but he makes magic happen. Dude didn't even play high school in 2020. Goes to OU in 21 when Rattler has issues. He steps in the Texas game. He scrambles out of the pocket, up into the pocket, sees Marvin Mims 55 yards down the field on the run, launches to the pylon. Mims makes a tremendous catch. And I just thought, what the hell am I watching? Who's this guy? I mean, it was one of those feels like I knew who Caleb Williams was, but I'm like, what is this? Then he goes to USC with Lincoln and just expanded. I mean, the game against Notre Dame, he was incredible. Caleb Williams, 6'1", 215, can make every throw. You can say he's transcendent, but at the top of this class, I mean, I think he fits. So 10 through 1, Cam Ward, 10, Washington State. 9, Spencer Rattler, South Carolina. 8, Bo Nix, Oregon. 7, Shedeur Sanders at Colorado, formerly at Jackson State. 6, Grayson McCall, Coastal Carolina. 5, Sam Hartman, Notre Dame, transferred from Wake Forest. 4, J.J. McCarthy, Michigan. 3, Michael Penix Jr. at Washington, UW. And 2, Drake May, North Carolina. And 1 is Caleb Williams. All right, since we're on a roll, let's finish with the top 10 prospects that I've got thus far. And you'll hear 1, 2, 3 of the quarterbacks. So you know that Caleb Williams, Drake May, and Michael Penix Jr. are in this top 10. There are 3 quarterbacks in the top 10. And I contemplated McCarthy. Don't quite have him in the top 10, but I know he's probably going to be in the top 20, top 25 when my Harris 100 for 2024 comes out. So 2024, Harris 100. First listen to it. And, of course, I have every opportunity to change my mind, but I won't. I'll leave it right here. Number 10, offensive tackle, third-year guy from Alabama, J.C. Latham, 6'6", 335, can move, long arms, physical. I thought he was the best lineman in Alabama, which wasn't saying much in 2022. I felt like that line dipped. It was not the same as it's been when you had Evan Neals and the other players that they've had over the years. So J.C. Latham, tackle, Alabama goes 10. Talked about Michael Penix Jr. He goes number 9 from Washington. At 8, the first edge rusher. Well, he ends up being the number 2 edge rusher up here. JT Tuimoloau, Ohio State. Easy for me to say. He was absolutely dominant at Penn State game. It's kind of fits and starts with him. There are some games like that Penn State game where every play that needed to be made, he made it. He is thick. He can move. He can rush. He's everything you want an edge rusher. He will set the edge. I think he plays with the energy that you want to have on the Ohio State side. And he did a lot of it on the opposite side of our number 7 player, and that's offensive tackle Olu Fashanu, Penn State. If Fashanu was in this draft, which he had a possibility to be, in fact, he declared to go back to Penn State real early. Fashanu would have been the number 1 tackle on my board without any question. He is long. He's young. I think he's 20 years old. He felt like he still had more to prove at Penn State, but he's what you want a tackle to be. Reminds me a lot of Ike Ekwonu from out of NC State. Number 6, this one was also a surprise when he went back. Jared Verse, Florida State. I think he would have been in the mix for the top 20, no doubt, maybe top 15, even higher. Jared Verse was outstanding. Transferred from Albany, went to Florida State, and from day one, first game against LSU, you see number 5, and you're like, whoa, who's 5? He's from Albany? This guy's crushing it. Jared Verse, defensive end, edge rusher from out of Florida State. Top 5, here we go. Tight end, Brock Bowers. If Bowers were in this draft, you'd go top 10. I would think the Eagles would take a look at him in the top 10. I think there would be some teams trading up for Brock Bowers. From day one, play 1 against Clemson. They threw him a tight end screen. A true freshman from Napa Valley, California, going against Clemson, and Georgia throws him a quick screen against Clemson. That shows you how good Brock Bowers is, tight end from Georgia. Number 4, remember the name, Barrett Carter, Clemson. You'll hear Trenton Simpson's name this weekend or draft weekend get drafted from Clemson. Clemson's got 2 studs. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. is in the top 20, top 25. Barrett Carter's on a different level. And when we were checking out what we were in, Residence Inn, Courtyard in Indianapolis for the Combine. This has happened now 2 years in a row. Last year, it was the Ohio State guys, Paris Johnson Jr., Jackson Smith and Jigba, and C.J. Stroud. There's one other. I can't remember who it was. But those 3, they were checking out. Well, they were checking in. We were checking out. So they were in front of us. This year was Barrett Carter. Barrett Carter was checking in. When he turned around, you know how linebackers just have that look? Barrett Carter's got that look. Barrett Carter's a bad dude, and he can do everything on a football field. Barrett Carter's at 4. Number 3, quarterback Drake May, North Carolina. We talked about Drake. And number 2, wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr., Ohio State. I battled whether he should be 1 or 2, but when you have a quarterback like Caleb Williams, it makes that much more sense. Caleb Williams comes in at number 1 in the top 10. So top 10 going into the Harris 100 of 2024. Offensive tackle, J.C. Latham, Alabama at 10. Michael Penix Jr. at 9 from Washington. Number 8, edge, JT Tuimoloau, Ohio State. 7, offensive tackle, Olu Fashanu, Penn State. 6, edge rusher from Florida State, Jared Verse. And keep an eye on Florida State. They got some dudes this year. Number 5, Brock Bowers, the tight end from Georgia. Number 4, linebacker Barrett Carter from Clemson. Number 3, Drake May, the quarterback from North Carolina. Number 2, Marvin Harrison Jr., Ohio State, and number 1, Caleb Williams at USC. So there you go. That's your top 10 for 2024, your top 10 quarterbacks for 2024, and your top 10 quarterbacks, which you can see on the ticker down below for 2023. I appreciate you guys checking in. Let me see if we got any comments here. Max, I appreciate it. The errors happen. You guys are great. Maserati, H-Town, you're right. Bravo. Appreciate the thoughts. This from the other Chip. Levis seems like an athlete playing quarterback. I get a Jake Locker vibe off him. It's funny you say that because that's the vibe I got. I keep saying Jake Locker. Now I do think Jake Locker would have been better than he turned out. But I think there were some things working against him. First of all, Tennessee was awful. The offensive line was awful. And I don't think the offensive staff around him helped him at all. So I don't think Jake Locker got helped out in any way, shape, or form. If Will Levis gets in the right system, if he gets in a Texan system, I think the Texan system would help him, which is one that obviously the 49ers run. I think that would actually help him probably more so than anything else. And Liam Cohen at Kentucky in 2021, that was the offense, or at least from the same sort of tree branches that Levis was running. So there you go. David says, I would be fine if the Texans draft Anthony Richardson at 2. I would be too. I've said this. I know I'm kind of crazy on that because I don't want my quarterbacks to be totally inconsistent, but they're going to be inconsistent. I kind of like his inconsistency because every 5 plays, at least something crazy's happening. And good. Like, did he just throw that ball 70 yards in the air? Did he just do that? Did he just run 75 yards like Dameon Pierce did against the Chargers? Did he just go 75 yards? I mean, put butts in seats. There's no question about that. So appreciate that. Joey, I met you at training camp at the Greenbrier watching rookie year. Got a photo with you. Appreciate that, Joey. Man, I wish we went back to Greenbrier. The Greenbrier was absolutely an awesome time. And Timeout Houston says, I'm late. What are we talking about? Well, we were talking about quarterbacks in 2023, quarterbacks in 2024, and the top 10 in 2024. So whatever you missed, I'll put it back on my channel. But I appreciate you guys. FootballTakeover.com. I'm going to have my final Harris 100 coming out. I got my draft guide. That is, when I get off right now, that's where I'm going, right straight to my draft guide. And I'm going to be getting that done hopefully next week. And you guys can have that with you for the draft. And I think the one thing that I'll have in there, I'll have player comps for like 200 players, but I'll have all team needs for every team in a league. A lot of guys will put one out, like my buddy Dane Brugler put it out, and it's awesome. The Athletic, you got to go check it out. It's fantastic. But he focuses on just the players. I'm going to do players and NFL team needs and kind of put the two of them together. So hopefully you'll get a chance to get that next week at footballtakeover.com. Appreciate you guys. May, I love you too. My daughter's in the YouTube page, so hopefully you guys are nice to her. You guys are the best. We'll see you next week where we'll do sleepers. We'll do, what will we do next week? We'll do sleepers. We'll do anything else that we haven't touched on. We'll do top 10 position rankings for defense as well, because I got to get those out there. So we'll do all that next week. I'm gonna try and do Tuesday and Thursday YouTubes. And just this one got moved because I wasn't totally finished, so I moved to Friday. So appreciate you guys being with me. Thank you so very much. I'll put this up on YouTube so you can watch the whole thing. And tell your friends. Tell them all. As Mitch Hedberg said, tell your friends. Ducks eat for free at Subway. Love you guys. We'll see you next time.